See you, buddy.
Good to see you always. Good to see you the other day. It was good seeing
Oh,
you in
no doubt.
Vegas.
No doubt.
Yep, it's coming on now. So y'all get ready. All right.
Okay, somebody got the football game on. They need to be on mute.
Yeah, I just muted everybody. All right. So thanks to everybody for coming in as we have this very important discussion. A lot has happened over the last month or so, especially last week. Last week, the TNBC conference had concluded, and the TNBC made a historic endorsement on the presidential candidate. We endorsed Kamala Harris to be our next president. And that was met with a lot of confusion, also with some frustration that the governing body of the Teamsters has not yet made an endorsement. So I want to give a big shout out to the TNBC for really stepping out in leadership to let folks know that we're not going back. I think everybody on this call knows that Donald Trump is not for labor. He is not for working class people, not for working class families. And so it's our job, as Chris always says, that we have to be the vanguard of the labor movement because we cannot allow a person who has a history of anti-labor, anti-woman, anti anything that has to do with making working class folks' lives better. He is against that. To the point, I believe last week, him and Elon Musk had a little interview on X, and he thought it was funny that working class people were going on strike, and he thought that they should be fired, and they laughed and joked about it. And I think everybody on this call, we need to pay attention to that, especially because no employer will give you anything if you do not have a strike clause or where you can withhold your labor. I think we have some UPS folks on here that are very, very, they know this all too well. If we don't have a strike clause in the UPS contract, we're not going to get anything. Not one thing we're going to get. Everybody knows that. So when you get ready to go into the ballot box to make your vote, make sure you have your contract expiration date in mind before you check the wrong thing, because I can guarantee you this, and I'll throw this in for free before we open it up, because I want Michelle to read this question that she was asked. Why is there a TNBC? And I think people need to understand why there's a need for TNBC and the Hispanic caucus and a women's caucus. And so when we talk about going on strike, there's only one candidate who's going to walk the picket line with you. The other one wants to fire you and laugh at you. So go ahead, Michelle, read that question if you can.
Okay, so can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so what I had posted was, I had posted that we are looking for brothers and sisters to join TNBC. And of course, I called a respectful Caucasian brother, asked why is TNBC necessary today? And so this is what I wrote back to him, and it was pretty much off the cuff. I was on the truck, but this is what hit my heart, and this is what I thought I needed to say to him. I said, thank you for asking. Teamsters, to no fault of its own, still doesn't equally see its minority brothers nor sisters involved or participating in union activities. There could be hundreds of reasons, but we believe it could be from a lack of seeing ourselves at meetings or in positions of leadership across all union levels. Therefore, just as this caucus and others like it were created as an outreach to those that may have commonalities in hopes to bring them in and get them involved. Also, sadly, there are many still microaggressions happening at most Teamster represented companies. We're here to educate all on how to limit and hopefully eliminate this in the future. Lastly, we educate each other and any interested on how to reach leadership positions within the TNBC, IBT, or um, their local unions. Hold on, okay. And then, hold on. Here we go. Reach leadership positions within their locals. Okay. In contrast, IBT was originally created for our Caucasian brothers. We are here to make sure inclusion persists. And I just said to him, I hope this helps. And I actually got a favorable response. I don't know if you saw me send that to you, Brother Hooker, but he actually sent back to me and said he appreciated the thoughtful response. And just because he doesn't experience it, it doesn't mean it's not happening. So I think that was a small win for us trying to explain our purpose to a Caucasian brother.
Awesome. And thank you for not shunning that brother, because a lot of times that I found out in the Teamsters, when somebody has a difference of opinion than you, then we automatically just shut them out and throw them away, right? For whatever reason, man, this organization, for us to be a union, we don't have a problem with throwing each other away or really coming at each other when we have different opinions. And I kind of want to, I see we got Principal Officer from Local 769, Josh Zilovich. Thank you for coming up. We also got GEB board member, John Palmer is on. And then I see we got Vice President from Local 952, Danny Herbert. So thank you guys for joining in.
Thank you, Richard.
No problem at all. So this TNBC endorsement, and we also got, I'm sorry, Chris, the longest tenured principal officer, Chris Rivera, online.
No, I just wanted to, I raised my hand because I just wanted to say to the sister that the IBT wasn't created for white Teamsters. There were actually a lot of blacks involved in the movement. In various places, New Orleans, Galveston, Texas, Savannah, Charleston. There's Teamsters were the predominant group. It was a poorly paid job at the time. And so that the IBT was formed for people who were participating in a particular type of work, regardless of color. What happened, if you go back to 1903, when the merger in Niagara Falls, you will see a picture of, they say the corrupt Cornelius Shea, and there were these two brothers sitting beside him. One was a gentleman that we identify as T.A. Stowers, who was a principal in helping to write the Constitution. Probably one of the last blacks that ever got on the Constitutional Committee and actually had something to say. But in 1903, but it was formed for working people, regardless of color. What happened in racist America is a different story.
You're right, Brother Chris. And I probably shouldn't say that, but I actually didn't know where this Caucasian brother was getting ready to try to hit me with. Sometimes you try to give a politically correct response. I didn't know if it was one of those brothers that was really going to try to stab at me, because his question was, why don't we have a white caucus? It was one of those.
Oh,
so
they answer that, they already do.
That's right. That's exactly why I did it, Chris. So I respect that history, and I have read up on it. But that was the last thing I said to him. So maybe that was a little bit of a kickback, saying, "Don't come for me, because it's all yours anyway. We're just trying to have a peace."
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna mute back.
Well, thank you for taking care of that, and we appreciate that. I want to jump right in to this whole endorsement, and I know we got Josh Zilovich. He came out right around the same time as TNBC when we came out with our letter. And so I want to ask you, Brother Josh, what made you take that stand because, like I know, we have a very retaliatory general president. Some of the conversations that we were having within the executive board of the TNBC, we knew that everybody's name that was on that paper was opening themselves up to some form of retribution or some type of retaliation because of the history that we have been shown by this general president. So what made you step out the way you did?
Well, Richard, again, thanks for inviting me to the call, and I'm honored to be on it with you all. I had a conversation, and I saw on the news about 2 weeks ago when former President Trump went, I believe, before I believe it was a council of the National Council of Black Journalists, I believe. And in his question and answer, almost immediately, he doubled down in referencing to Black jobs. Mm-hmm. And I found that offensive. And I certainly know that my brothers and sisters, my brothers and sisters of color certainly must have found that offensive and degrading. And I actually, I picked up the phone and I called a good friend, James Corbin, and I said, "Did you see this?" And James said, "Josh, I hadn't been able to see the news today." I said, "Man, you need to see this because I don't know what we're waiting for as an organization." The straw broke the camel's back when it comes to Trump versus Biden or Trump versus Harris, long time ago. Mm. But it was just it was infuriating, and I just thought it was time. Things kept being delayed. I believe that General President O'Brien, perhaps he had the best of intents with his appearance in front of the RNC. But quite frankly, for those that are inclined to vote for Trump or vote to the right, they've made our ultimate get out the vote efforts all the more difficult. And I just thought it was time. I thought it was time that somebody within the organization kind of called him out and said, "Look, what are we doing here?" And I'm hoping that in some way it would persuade. But to your point about retaliation, look, that's a shame. Yeah. That shouldn't be what this organization is about. And I think you and I had a conversation. I mean, this isn't a complaint or a grievance about a minor part of a contract that perhaps could be viewed as concessionary. And those are problems too. But this is about the presidential endorsement by the Teamsters Union, a candidate that wants to do away with organized labor versus a candidate that wants to promote working people through organizing and maintaining that framework that we utilize, which is flawed, right? We all know it's flawed. So I thought it was time to speak up. And if there's consequences, there's consequences. But I know I'm not walking alone on this. There's people on this call. The TNBC is a fantastic organization that I think last year in Miami, when I had the privilege of addressing the TNBC convention, I said, you all in a lot of ways are the moral compass for the organization in my mind. Mm. And I applaud you all for taking the bold step. And I think if more of us stand up, I think that the general president and the executive board will realize this is an obvious choice. Let's all get on board. Let's work our butts off for the Harris-Walz ticket, and all of the pro-labor candidates that are down the ballot, because it's been invigorating, and the DNC I thought was very, very good, and I'm excited moving forward. We're gonna do something in Joint Council 75 on a get out the vote, whether the IBT does something or not. I'm very confident we're going to put something together. I've already been talking to some of our board members and awesome. and some others. So long answer to a short question, Richard. I apologize.
That's all right, brother Chris.
So let me first say that I thought that was one hell of a letter. I couldn't have written a better letter myself. That was as clear and concise as you could make a letter be. But I am appalled at the position of our union. I mean, I know you could buy Chris for $86.6 billion that I don't got to pay back. You could have my body and soul. But I saw I guess she's the I presume it's a woman, is the spokesperson for the IBT. And that person said that is the minimum that he could do, was to sign the American Rescue Bill, including Butch Lewis Act, something that Donald Trump could have signed into being, right? Years before, because it was a 6-year, 7-year struggle on the part of Stribling and those retirees that brought this forward. They actually should name the bill after Stribling, not the Butch Lewis Act. But to say that that was the least, and then to follow up by saying that he should have formed a trucking company, I'm like, when does the president start trucking companies or airlines or railroads? I mean, I think that person should have been terminated on the spot for being stupid twice in the same 5 minutes. But I applaud TNBC's stand. I hope it gives people the comfort to come out and stand in solidarity with a more pro-labor political party than the other party, which is completely not only anti-labor, it actually is now instituting anti-democracy. It is anti-freedom. It is talking about dictatorship. It is, and the talk that they're talking when they're trying to distance themselves from Project 2025, which has now gone through a few name changes apparently, is that everything in there was tried before in the first administration of Donald Trump. They tried to get rid of the civil servants and it was rejected. They tried to do these things. So this is not something new. They want to have party apart checks in position in which there is no question as to what the leader says it is. And it is deeply unfortunate. I don't even know I like the word unfortunate that our general president can't see that. I mean, it's like standing in the pouring rain and can't realize that this is rain and think it's sunshine outside. I mean, there's something wrong with that. And I question why he was in Mar-a-Lago, obviously now more than once.
Oh, he was there. He was there more than
there is a picture with a gentleman who might be a member of 769, where he was in the area. He had no reason to be there.
Yeah,
that's not where
yeah.
working class go for vacation.
Oh no.
Yeah, and that got sent to me at the end of last week, and somebody posted on Facebook, why would the general president be there? I was asked to look into it. Was it accurate? And it is a member of 769. It apparently was taken Monday of last week in Palm Beach. I'm in the process of verifying that further. But it did check out. I don't know the member personally. I mean, we've, like a lot of principal officers of large locals, you try to get to know all your members, but it's just, I don't know him. But it seems as if it's accurate, and I'll certainly get with both of you guys or the entire group, and I should have verification probably by the end of the day tomorrow. I don't know why he would be there. Perhaps he's got family or perhaps he was on a vacation, but it sure is kind of curious and frankly suspicious that he'd be in Palm Beach at a Hilton less than 5 miles away from Mar-a-Lago on Monday morning that the DNC was happening. and then 2 appearances on Fox News the same week. That's concerning to me. I'm just going to be honest. That's concerning to me.
He couldn't even chastise Trump on Cavuto. Cavuto was giving him all these fees, all the reasons why he should say something bad about Trump, and he still couldn't bring himself to say something bad about Trump in light of what was now the famous or infamous Musk-Trump conversation about firing striking workers.
And
Man,
August
if I
19th was after the TNBC endorsement, was after my letter, was after Rick Hicks and Joint Council 28, was after Abel Garcia. That's last weekend and last Monday morning.
Mhm.
I mean, that's concerning. Is our lack of endorsement part of an arrangement? Just delay, because we all know get out the vote takes time.
Yes, right.
You got to get your folks lined up. You got to get your good spokespeople. You've got to get reimbursement arrangements if you have such with either the JC or the IBT. Is that part of it to just kind of suppress the vote? Again, I'm hopeful that I'm wrong, but I'm definitely cynical and suspicious at this point. And I'm talking too much. I'm going to shut up so that others can participate. I apologize.
That's okay. Can I talk now?
Go ahead, Mama.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Fontaine, he's been waiting to talk. I'll let him talk and I go after him.
Okay.
Hello everybody, how you doing? I'm Fontaine Crucial, shop steward from Local 710, and I just want to address the elephant in the room. I'm not speaking for Mr. Sean O'Brien. I personally don't know him or anything, but if the Teamsters is a very large national, organized labor union, and I just got the notion that when this all started with the first appearance of the RNC, I think that we're trying to put ourselves in a position to where we're trying to not play both sides, but show up at the RNC and then the DNC, and then with the outcome of both appearances, to then finally make an endorsement on behalf of the international brotherhood of the Teamsters. And I think what failed is we never got that invite to DNC. And then, in between that, the famous interview of, Trump and Elon Musk happened. So it kind of crumbled everything that, you can even come back and say after that. Trump showed his true colors after he did that interview. And, it just put the whole TNBC, or not TNBC, but the whole organization as far as the Teamsters, it put us in an awkward place because, we got, whether we like it or not, we got members on both sides that want to support the Democrats and the Republican, that's everybody's right, but as a union, we all should be looking at the same goal as far as what's best for the working people, to kind of piggyback, off your question of the guy wrote in, what is the TNBC necessary for? A lot of people don't realize, the Teamsters had a participation in the civil rights movement. We worked with Martin Luther King side by side, Selma and, in Memphis, and actually, everything. We made Martin Luther King an honorary member of the Teamsters. So it dates back, way before then, especially Blacks, minorities, in this union. Not to get off track, but to bring it back, I think that's just where it lied at before the DNC started. So it's kind of hard, for even though we had Teamsters at the DMC, they did represent us. Then the UAD came in, which they were their first appearance at on any political platform, and they gave full endorsement of them. So it just lined up that it just wasn't a good look, and we still to this day don't have a full endorsement on either side of the party of what we're gonna do. So Yeah, it's just it's a sticky situation. I think that's why we're having this
Yeah.
this conversation that we're having right now.
So I'm gonna go to Mama
Can I
Jackie.
can I say something when Jackie's done?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Mama Jackie. I'm gonna come back to you, PJ.
I done forgot what I was gonna say, but you know what, Josh, I really think I appreciate Josh making a comment of getting with you and Chris afterwards about this thing in Mar-a-Lago in Florida. I did this whole thing just threw me off for a second. So whoever's next, let them go.
I know we had Sister Yvette, then we'll go down to PJ.
Well, I definitely want to say, I appreciate what the brother Fontaine was speaking on, but Trump showed his true colors a long time ago. Like we
Yeah,
we
yeah,
didn't even have to give him an opportunity to say anything, be anywhere near the international Brotherhood of Teamsters in DC. He should have been nowhere near anything that has anything to do with the Teamsters. It shouldn't have been any entertaining. Despite the fact, like we do have those supporters, but his song and dance that he's been doing has emboldened the Teamster members that are supporters of Trump to think that this is even a thought. You know, we're trying to suppress that because we know he's not good for anything that has to do with a union. But yet and still, this plan, the game mess is like I say, it's happening our progress when it comes to getting out the vote correctly, because we need people who are going to support what we're trying to do in labor. Yeah, we know the Democrats need some work too, but our pensions have been saved simply because of what they did, and 0 Republicans voted for that. And just that alone, if they didn't do anything else, should have been enough for people to act like they had some sense and say, you know what, Trump them is not the move. But we still have people who just stuck in this thing, and he did not help that fact at all. He's definitely made a big blunder that I don't think he's gonna come back from. But we wish him the best. But the Teamsters have to show, and I'm glad our brothers and sisters did get a chance to go and represent us at the DNC, our retirees, and brother Jimmy from my local. I appreciate
yeah.
all their efforts that they went through to fight for us, and that they did show. And I appreciate that the Democrats are not putting us all in one lump,
Right.
recognizing that members still have their own voice, and we're going to make the choice to vote for the people who supported us.
Okay, PJ, then I'm gonna go back to Chris.
Tell him he has to wait till Hooker let him in. Okay, let me reply back to what that young gentleman said. Yes, there are people on both sides that wants to vote for Trump and wants to vote for not Biden. What's his name? Well, now Harrison. But here's the thing, like she just said, Trump showed himself a long time ago, especially when he started out in his politics. Because if you go back to 2016 and you look at all the cases that he was all the union things that he was trying to shoot down, why would you want to vote for a man that clearly stated, regardless of who we are, that he doesn't want nothing to do with the union? Then you said that about the DNC, they didn't have to invite they didn't have to invite I'm driving, so I'm watching, sorry. They didn't have to invite him. And even if they did invite the Teamsters, they invited another union member, people to come, which as union members, regardless, we should have stood up and clapped because there were union members there. And as far as O'Brien, he doesn't care. Even if we vote 99 to 1, it doesn't matter. He does not, and you keep saying that it kind of like weighs because you ain't the only person. A few people said that it's kind of weighing. No, it's not. And this is my opinion, he wants us to back Trump. I don't know if he have a backdoor deal with Trump, but he wants us to back Trump. I don't understand how you don't see that. He's been so obvious, he just haven't said it. He hid behind keywords. So yes, you do have both who wants to go, but the majority of people is kind of like a little sticky because I had this conversation the other day. They are Republicans, but when it comes to the union, they're kind of like stuck because they don't know who to go for because they already know he's not for the union, but now they're messing with his money. So regardless if O'Brien didn't, never mind. I'm gonna keep that comment to myself. But that's it. I'm all over because I'm trying to drive. I'm so sorry.
Can I add one thing?
Go ahead, Myra.
I think I read it somewhere. that if Sean O'Brien keeps screwing around with Donald Trump, he won't have a union to be president of. And I don't think that they realize, I mean, those kinds of impacts.
I hear you.
Right, right.
Richard, could I just say that I would agree, and I understand the strategy of speak of the RNC, speak of the DNC, but it's not accurate that we've never endorsed after both conventions. In fact, I got from a good friend who's a political coordinator in a joint council. He reminded me and sent me, which I'll send along to you, that we endorsed President Obama when he was candidate Obama in February of 2008. And the convention, the DNC, I believe, was held in Denver later that year in August. So that's not accurate. It was a strategy. And I think that, you have to be cognizant of, the moving parts in the political landscape. And certainly, as I said, when Trump made that appearance in front of the Conference of Black Journalists, to me, that was a perfect opportunity for General President O'Brien to use that as an off-ramp to say, okay, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. And then certainly a week later, when Elon Musk and Trump have their conversation, that's the off-ramp. Hey, that's when he can say, you know what, we were thinking about it, but you know what, that's it. Let's go. Let's all get on board. And so I think that instead he's doubling down to saying after the convention. So that's just my thoughts on it.
Brother Palmer.
Right. I do agree
hold on,
with
Fontaine. Hold on one second.
All
We're
right.
gonna get Brother Palmer to go.
all right.
All right. I heard what everybody had to say, and I agree with a lot. Obviously, I've been in the room when we've had these discussions, and I think the key thing here is really clear, like had been mentioned before. And Josh, you've been very on point, my friend. We know who Donald Trump is. We've always known who Donald Trump is. And I think the biggest factor here is how much time, and we also know that a large part of our membership is split on which party they support or the candidates they want to vote for. Our job as leadership is not to take polls and keep taking them until we get it right, and then to reflect what the membership is saying. Our job is to take the raw facts about each candidate, and folks like Josh Hawley who have a zero. Why don't we give a Josh Hawley $5,000? He's got a 0% record in supporting labor. Why are we supporting J.D. Vance when he has a 0% record in supporting labor? When Biden came to the GEB, as many of you know, I absolutely refused to be in the same room with Donald Trump. And as long as I'm alive, that'll be my position. I know what he is. I don't want to be anywhere near him. But we as leaders had precious time. It went around that room. The only two people that abstained from the idea that Biden was the guy, that it was a no-brainer, were Zuckerman and O'Brien. Now, as to what was said, what was done, again, I'm going to reinforce what Josh says. No one can speak for somebody what happens behind closed doors. But boy, this does have a certain aroma to it, and it ain't mama's cooking. So I'm embarrassed that we've lost all this time. Our members are going to do what they're going to do. I always say this. I'm proud of my service in the military. My whole family's been in the military. They've always served, and people have a right to vote. But our job is to set out the facts and hope that they listen. We've lost months explaining to members why a scab, a guy that destroyed the labor board, a guy that has just recently said, if you go on strike, you ought to be replaced. That's the ultimate disclaimer right there. So anyway, I just feel like we've failed to, and that's why I stepped out of line. And as far as retaliation goes, I really don't care anymore. But we got to do what's right. And I applaud Josh and all the other, the TNBC and all the other folks that have stepped up and did something that's very uncomfortable. And I'll be there with y'all. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, brother. Go ahead, Chris. You on mute. You on mute.
Josh talked about an off ramp. I didn't see the on ramp, right? If you go backwards in time, there's a group called the Central Park Five.
Yeah.
Central Park Five, this man spent hundreds of thousands to take out full page ads in the newspaper in New York City to call for their death, right? To call, not a trial, calling for them to be hung before there was even a guilty verdict. Many, many years later, when those people were approved by DNA and what have you to have not been a part of it, and that they had spent 18 or 20 years of their life behind bars, he didn't have the manliness to apologize or to at least put up the same amount of money that he had spent to vilify them, to say, hey guys, sorry, but let me give you a job. Hey, let me give you some money, because he's supposed to be a billionaire. He could have spread 100,000 apiece in an apology letter to the Central Park Five. All five were innocent.
Mhm.
He has a history. I don't call them Republicans anymore. They're Confederates. When you stormed the Capitol, I was in Washington, D.C. with Minister Farrakhan at the Million Man March. Nobody stormed anything that day. I was there for millions more. Nobody stormed anything that day. We left D.C. cleaner than it was. In fact, history will prove that less alcohol was sold that day, less cigarettes was sold that day. We were of a class behavior. So I don't want to hear about anything. This man is totally anti-labor, and set Trump to the side for the moment. The Republican Party itself has exhibited over the last 20 or 30 years a totally anti-labor position that no one in their right mind should think that a guy that lies the way that this man lies, that goes around talking about grabbing things and was convicted 34 times in a court of law by a jury, right? And had to pay this woman $80 million or whatever for sexual assault. That this, think of it, you tell me one other white man, forget me, no blacks ain't gonna have it. Tell me one other white man that could survive this and say they want to be president of the United States. We are in a position now, particularly as people of African descent, right? Now, when you look at what's going on in Georgia with the laws and the gerrymandering in Alabama, that there are people that obviously do not want us to vote, that want to step back to a time when women couldn't vote. Listen to the idiot in North Carolina. We're at a time, we're at an inflection point in the history of this country, right? And we are either going to go forward or we're going to go backwards. Well, I can tell you, I ain't going backwards.
No, we're not going back.
Right? Nobody's going backwards.
No,
we're
not going back.
forward. And when the general president can't look at the factors around him and see this, his own pension fund is being bailed out by the Butch-Lewis Act. His pension, my pension fund ain't getting 10 cents, right? His pension fund is getting hundreds of millions, right? And this is the reward. He is behaving like our members behave, with no appreciation for what the union does for them on a day-to-day basis. It's what have you done for me lately? And Joe, and for a sitting president to say to the people in Bessemer, Alabama, that were being organized by the UFCW, that you should join a union. If that don't tell you anything positive, then something is wrong with your leadership. And he is in a local 25. You don't even have a black man mopping the floor. Okay? When George Cashman was the head of that local, they had a black business agent who somehow disappeared after he took over, right?
Ralph Henderson.
We're dealing with a situation where he didn't go to Cornel West's house to have no private meeting before they came to 25 Louisiana Avenue. I don't know anyone who has gone to Mar-a-Lago that didn't go there to kiss something.
Henderson was that black agent from 25.
Huh?
Remember Ralph Henderson was that
Ralph
black
Henderson,
agent.
that's right.
Yes.
and he disappeared shortly after O'Brien took over. Right?
Go ahead, Michelle.
I mean, he might have retired. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to say he threw him in the wind, but
Okay.
they never found a replacement. So what I'm saying is, as Africans in America, as trade unionists, we don't have time to play around. We are so far back in terms of wages. So when you talk about that, the president of the United States, the former president, the orange one, could have increased minimum wage. Minimum wage is $7.25. And if you're a waitress, it's $2 and change. If you don't get tips, if you work one day and it rained and nobody came to your restaurant, it means that after an 8-hour shift, you made $16 and change. In America, we have a war to fight. We have a revolution to be a part of. We don't have no time for no mixed messages, no goddamn bullshit, no damn foolishness. We need to pick up armor and like he like to say, strap on our helmets, strap on our pads. I would like to add a few other things, but I'm a nonviolent type of a person. But we going to war. And if he ain't up for the war, then he need to get out the way and let the people who can execute the war execute the war. But this ain't no time for playing. Not in 2024 in America. It's a day that we're either going to win something or lose a lot.
Go ahead, sis, Michelle.
Okay, so I have a question. What I've been learning about union and our institutions that we have, no, not one of these institutions is one man or one woman himself. So my question is the IBT, is O'Brien's executive board aware of the chess game he's playing? Like, do they have the back scoop on what this is all about? Or is he moving singularly and working towards something that only he knows about? Because like Brother Chris said, it's war. So should we be engaging war against one or all? Like, how is this being played in the boardroom up there, and who knows what's really going on and who doesn't?
Go ahead, John. Go ahead, John, because you're a GEB member.
I haven't heard the question. I would love to answer it for you, Michelle. And I think like every other general president, he has advisors. I'm not very fond of the gentleman that he has advising him. I think we all know the gentleman from Chicago, the former John Coley's former assistant. Him and his political advisor are advising him as to this strategy. And it is put out to us as this concept or idea that we're too closely tied to one political party, and that somehow we need to use our leverage to play both ends against the middle and to get support on issues that we need from Republicans from time to time. And there's, I guess, in a sane world, that strategy would make sense. But once again, if you're hooked into the Republican Party as an insurrectionist, an election denier, and God only knows, we've called Donald Trump all the names he deserves, and we probably haven't gone through it all completely yet. We can't believe this is a good strategy, just based on what I've seen. As I'm right now the only vocal GEB member willing to speak out based on what I've seen. We've harmed the Teamsters image with the rest of labor. There's a reason that they didn't, and nor would I invite Sean O'Brien after that behavior. You come and mess in my meal, and I'm supposed to invite you to my convention, and you're playing me like I owe you something. This is not how you get favors. You work with people, but you don't work against them. And look, that appearance, I think Josh made a really good point. That appearance at the Republican National Convention was a tacit endorsement. If we had members that were thinking about, well, maybe, I know he's not good for labor, but I like him because let's not get into all the reasons people like Donald Trump. We all know what it is, right? So that dog doesn't hunt, and it's a shame because this is a consequential election, and we can't. And to be honest, Michelle, to answer your question, the folks in that boardroom don't have. I'm just going to use the word backbone to be polite. The backbone to stand up to him and take on a different opinion. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm probably guilty of talking too much my whole life and offending people my whole life. But on this issue, you know what? For once, John Palmer's right.
Brother Chris.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so let me just go backwards. TNBC, I like do a little history thing. When Barack Obama ran for United States Senate, he was unable to get to the Joint Council's endorsement party thing where people come in and speak. And the Joint Council endorsed some kook. And the TNBC Chicago chapter, under the leadership of a guy named Ted Mullins, 710 member, you should go find out about, his brother Larry Mullins. Ted Mullins was a different kind of human being, solid brother, good brother. And Ted Mullins put the TNBC chapter, and they endorsed Barack Obama. And Barack Obama won the primary, and then subsequently ran for president and won that. So I just said that TNBC has a history of cutting against the grain and recognizing what was in the interest of working men and women in this organization. So this ain't the first time, but this is huge. And I haven't seen a stand-up. So prior to the consent decree, we used to be in a strange place. But I tell you, I saw more independence from the vice presidents of this organization then, more backbone than I see today. We have some deskeletalized vice presidents who seem incapable of standing up and pushing back. This organization is built, it's a bottoms-up organization, right? So the Constitution tells you, right, that the locals came, and the locals are independent and autonomous, and the locals formed the international. The international didn't form the locals. We run that don't run us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was against when they had the blue ribbon committee and all wearing their blue vests and whatnot, trying to get along and go along. I wore no vest, and I told Tom Kegel, this is wrong, because now that you're a percentage, you don't have to come back and kiss the rings of the local union leaders when you want something, because you just get your money automatically. I do a contract, right? Not a UPS contract, a regular, what I like to call white paper for whatever reason, right? A white paper contract, you get a cut of my work. You didn't do anything. I got no research from you. I got nothing from you, right? And so now you don't have any reason to come back and have respect for the local unions. And that blue ribbon committee has destroyed local union autonomy in a way that I hope that we will somehow one day get back to a place where it don't look like that no more. Because the disrespect that is exhibited in this organization by the leadership is beyond my comprehension, and I've been around a long time.
So Chris, I want to stay right there for a moment. You said something that I want to talk about before we move on further. The General Executive Board, right? All of them were elected by the membership, right?
They don't believe.
So why don't we hear from them? Because the general president can't do anything to him because the members elected him. Now, if it was an appointed position, you got a stipend. I mean, we saw what he did to Eric Tate, right? We saw what he did to Kirby. So these vice presidents and things like that, they were elected, and you know, they still get the money that comes with that elected position. So he cannot do, from what I understand, he cannot do anything to them. So why is it so hard for them to stand up? Because he cannot do one thing to them
Yes, he
because
can.
they were elected. So what?
Yes, he can.
So what is it? It's got explain that to me.
Separately
I'll weigh
from
in on it.
separately from the check that they get from the international for being a VP, some of them get additional checks because they might be the head of a division or a deputy division, or you might have 2 or 3 people that got hired out of your local to come and work at the international as a reward. Most of these guys couldn't win squat on their own, right? And that's a part of the problem, is that you don't have a team. If I stood up most of these vice presidents singularly, most of them couldn't get elected to nothing past the local union they're in. So if I said, run amongst the rank and file and win some, they couldn't, right? So it is the engine, General President O'Brien, it's the engine, former General President Hoffa or former General President Ron Kerry, that pulls this train. In the past, pre-consent decree, you had very powerful men who sat on that general executive board. For whatever you might think of him, I could think of a guy named Joe Turtle, who was the Eastern Region Vice President. I don't want to judge poor Joe T's dead now, I think. But Joe T had power, right? If you go and look at Joe Morgan back in the day down in the South, those guys wielded real power. The general president had to be respectful of those people in a way that I have not seen happen in this recent history. The general president is almost a man on his own, and that's problematic.
Yeah, but shouldn't morality and character and integrity and just doing the right thing, shouldn't that mean more than money? I mean, shouldn't it? I mean, I'm just asking.
What planet you living on? That's why we're going to run a clean hands and pure heart slate, right?
I hear you.
Because the members need someone, and I shouldn't say someone, but a general executive board who is going to put their interests above money, right? So they thought cutting salaries and that don't change people. You have to come in with the right mindset, right? You have to come into this place thinking members first. And that's not what's happening. So people compromise themselves. I'm just going to use J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance says Donald Trump was America's Hitler.
Yeah.
And now you're running as vice president to America's Hitler. How do you reconcile that, right? And this is what's happening in this union, so that the general president has great resources at his or her discretion. And so they could say to Richard Hooker tomorrow, I'm going to make you head of the small package division. And I'm going to give you $100,000 a year. That's hard to say no, right? And I could go to Brother Fontaine up in Chicago and says, yeah, I'm going to bring you on and give you a nice stipend to be running around organizing Amazon. And he goes, wow, you mean I don't have to sweat as much and I could run around like this? And he'll be sold on that. I'm not impugning you, Brother. I'm just saying they find these people, right? So
Right.
To really find, and that's why we have to, in terms of just what we're doing here, we have to find those 20-odd people who believe in members first. I don't have no problem with you making money. I don't have a problem with you having a second check. I don't have no problem with you being in the family plan or none of those things. There are beautiful things that I wouldn't change one dime of it. But the right people have to sit in those chairs and do the right thing. You understand what I'm saying? Stop BSing the members. Stop telling them the greatest things that happen. Everything is the greatest thing that ever happened when you did it. That's foolishness. because that nobody had to tell anybody how great Michael Jordan was. Nobody had to tell anybody how great LeBron James is. Nobody had to tell anybody about Steph Curry. You could just like see it, and you smart enough to figure out, damn, that is great, right? So when you have to keep self-promoting, it actually tells me how weak your game is.
Mm.
Because when your game is strong, you don't have to self-promote. Everybody can see it, right? Halle Berry don't have to wear a sign goes, I'm pretty. Everybody could look and go, oh, damn, that girl pretty.
I hear you, right? Right. Brother Palmer.
I just wanted to make a real quick point. I think you raised a good point, Chris, and those of you that run local unions or officers in local unions know that when the 7 of you sit down, there's disagreements, and that over time people can change their positions on things, and I just think that's what's missing in that GEB right now is that the fact or we should be able to sit down and disagree. Like, the Cowboys suck, and I know it, but and they're probably going to suck this year. But I'm going to say they're going to win the Super Bowl. Big deal, right? But if you can't speak your mind, and you can't, if you got to walk in sort of a lockstep, with the leader to avoid being chastised or losing your money, then you're not effective anymore. And if you're the kind of person who can't allow dissent amongst your peers, then you're not really a leader. So that's kind of what I see going on right now. And I will say this: the years that I spent with the 5 years on the HOFA e-board, I disagreed with General President HOFA quite a bit. He never came after me. He never, I had big disagreements with him, but I was treated with a modicum of respect from him, which I am not receiving from the current general president. And that this is an organization that requires leadership to work together and row the boat together. And my biggest complaint with this group is we were going to bring in this era of grassroots trade unionism, bottom up. TDU was going to make this happen, and it's been a sham. We were lied to. So Chris, you're right. We need men and women. We're lacking women on that e-board, and folks of color. We need folks that can argue with one another, get up and walk out the door and go fight the fight.
You're right, brother. I heard this preacher say one time, and it's kind of fitting to this situation of fear and intimidation and retribution and retaliation. If you are afraid of the leader, you got the wrong leader. That's just the bottom line. If you are afraid of the leader, you have the wrong leader.
That's
especially with the amount of money that we pay in per capita and dues. I'm gonna say it again. If you are afraid to speak out because of some type of retaliation or retribution from your leader, then you have the wrong leader. Sister Michelle.
So I have another question about what O'Brien is doing. So we saw at the RNC, he spoke, the DNC, the UAW leader spoke. I don't know who knows the history, probably Brother Chris would know. How often, or have we ever had a union brother, or I'm sure I ain't even gonna say sister because I already know that answer. Have we ever had a union brother be Secretary of Labor of the United States? And is there a benefit to all of us if either one of them get that position?
We have had, we just had our brother Walsh that was the head of the building trades in Boston, and he became Secretary of Labor for a short spell. I don't know that I would expect it to have some benefit, however minimal, because you got to remember you're still a part of an administration, and to some degree you have to toe the line. So I don't want people to believe that I think the General Executive Board should be a free-for-all. I do not want to send that message. I think that you have to, but I think that you should be able to act with some level of independence, right? To bring your thoughts to the table without worrying about that. You know, this thing that just happened with Rick Hicks up in Joint Council 25 and a brother named Abel Garcia at 186. I think that people should be allowed to do some things independently, and it might irk you, right? I'm the general president, and it irked me, but I'm not going to withdraw organizers who are trying to bring new members into the union, right? And say, well, you're going to lose these people. I'd rather not have new members because I'm mad with you. And that type of negative retribution, right? So I could understand, I mean, I stood up when Ron Kerr was general president. I stood up when James P. Hoffa was general president. And I stand up when Sean O'Brien is general president. And I know that I'll never be in the family plan. And I know that I'll never get a second check. But my character and what I believe as a trade unionist,
That's it.
important to me.
That's it.
Second check, right? So I'm not going to do that. And so I have disputes with my guys on my local union executive board, and we battle it out, and we don't move until we come to common ground, right? So I thought it should have been 10. They thought it should have been 3. We argue, then we agree, okay, we can make it 5. And we go with 5, right? And then I'm not really happy because I thought it should have been 10. They ain't really happy, but we came to a place where we could live together. And that's what a general executive board does. We argue until there's compromise. We don't have a dictatorial general president that says, this is it. You got to come home. So they had some vice presidents that were at TNBC who got the phone call, you better get out of town, right? And they had to pack their bags and leave. And for them that try to say it didn't go like that, they need to remember that they spoke to people before they left and told them why they were leaving, right? And I ain't going to call no names, but they know who they are, right? He can't kick you off the slate, right? He can only throw you into the rubber room with John Palmer. That's all he could do. At some point, there'll be so many people in the rubber room that he don't have an executive board anymore, right? So people need to, because we as trade unionists, let me tell you something, I don't care how much you make as a feeder driver or on the railroad or wherever you work at. The working class is easily 50, 60% behind in wages from where they ought to be. They should probably be more, I would dare to say if I was a wild economist, I would tell you was closer to 70 or 80% behind. But if you look at where our minimum wage is at $7.25, that's a drag when you go to negotiate with UPS or Budweiser or any of these, InBev is now called InBev, excuse me. When you go to negotiate with these employers, because the floor is so far from the ceiling, right? Our wages represent the ceiling, and so that stretch between the two, the rubber can't stretch no more. So you have to bring the floor up to create more elasticity again in the stretch to go further up. And so that we have to vote for people who are going to talk about increasing the minimum wage for farm workers, for domestic workers, for service workers who are $2 and change. And when we talk about people coming across the border, I saw 60 Minutes at a hole in the fence. Now, 60 Minutes can find a hole in the fence. Don't tell me why the crossing people, the Border Patrol, can't find a hole in the fence. This is all a con game, because if you came through the airport with one cigar from Cuba, they'll find it. Now, if you could find one cigar in my luggage coming from Cuba, how come you can't find 12 million people that's running across the border every day, right? So America is a junkie. Slavery is heroin. The undocumented worker is methadone, but he's still a junkie. Don't fool yourself. And we have to transform this society. We have to transform our culture away from an exploitative culture in which we exploit women or we exploit people of color, or we exploit immigrants, and come to a culture where we embrace the working class, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of sexual orientation or anything else. And when we start to move like that, then you could start to elect government that now starts to pass rules and regulations that are in your interest, right? So we got to get rid of money in politics, right? We have to get rid of all these lobbyists who are now lobbying, who can buy anything in sight. You have never seen a politician from a city council all the way up to the governor, the president, or whoever. You have never seen an elected official who left that position and went to work for a union. They all went to work for some corporate entity. So you have to understand whose money talking and whose money walking.
Sissy
Can I
Vet.
address Michelle's
Oh,
one of her questions at the beginning? She talked about having a pro-labor person in the Department of Labor.
right.
Didn't we have the guy from Boston appointed
Yeah, Marty
as the Department
Walsh.
of Labor, and he
Yeah,
and he
Marty
quit,
Walsh.
became the commissioner of the hockey league.
Yeah, Marty Walsh.
Yeah, and he quit and became the commissioner of the hockey league.
That's
Right.
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 One is $100 and something thousand a year. The other one is $1 million plus. Where would you go?
Sissy Vet.
Yeah, I was just going to speak back on the topic of the retaliation thing. A lot of us work for companies that are extremely retaliatory. And so we're getting a lot of training in that, but now it's a problem that some of us are dealing with local and now international leadership that are doing the same thing. It's hard to be in a position like that. I'm currently in a position like that. I've dealt with being fired twice this year due to retaliation, and getting the support we need from our locals or the international is just not there, depending on who you are. And that's an issue. And it's hard for us to encourage other members to do certain things if they don't feel like somebody has their back. But
Right.
I always let my people know, look, I got my back, and it looked like somebody got mine too. My grandson peeping in once again. But that's something that we have to fight, on a regular basis. And it's unfortunate. But we're in training, and we're training to move it on out so we don't have to see that again from the top. And those people who feel like, in these locals, that they have to be allegiant to that. So they're neglecting their local members because of that. It's got to come to an end. So we're really tired of it. We've been training, and it's time to be done.
You're
Time to
right.
be done with that.
So my next thought and topic, as we talk about,
But before you go there, Richard, just want to
Okay.
say, Richard said something. When you have to fear your leadership, you got bad leadership,
yeah,
which means that the next operative move is to get rid of that leadership. I mean, that's just the reality of it, right?
you're right. So I got to ask this question, especially when we talk about this theme of, how much is your vote worth? Because we could talk about O'Brien, the general president, the general executive board. We could talk about them until Jesus comes. But on November the 5th, they're not going to be in the ballot box, the voting area with you. You're going to have to make a decision, a grown man, grown woman decision, in spite of what the general president is doing. Your pension is on the ballot. Your rights to collectively bargain is on the ballot. Women's rights are on the ballot. Those things are going to be in that box with you, right? Not O'Brien, not Zuckerman, not TDU, not Richard Hooker, not John Palmer, not Chris. It's going to be you, the ballot sheet, and your pension, your collective bargaining rights. And I posted something, I believe, yesterday, and I want all my UPSs to really think about this. On the front of your book, there's a date. It's July 31st, 2028. Whoever we elect as president, that's going to determine whether you go on strike or not. You already saw what Donald Trump feels and thinks about striking workers. So we can think about, I make all this money, I'm not worried about it, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to throw this in for free. I'm going to charge it next time. So last week we had panel with UPS, and the company's co-chair told me after the panel was over, well, he told all of us, he says, And I quote, if Kamala gets in office, she's going to give everybody a COLA raise. So I said, well, I understand why you want that other fella to be in office, because you know that we're not going to get really no COLA raises or collective bargaining rights. And that's the point I want to tell all of my UPSers and anybody that has a contract expiring in the next 4 years. You have to be mindful when you in that booth of your contract's expiration date, because depending on who you select will depend on how much your union can fight for you. It's just that simple. We could talk about January 6th. We could talk about Donald Trump being a white supremacist. We could talk about him being a convicted felon. We can talk about him being convicted of sexual assault on women and his stance on abortion and women's rights. We could talk about all that. But what I found out when you talk about that stuff, it creates more of a divide. But the one thing we cannot be divided on, striking the employer, collective bargaining rights, pension, a pro labor board, right? We cannot be divided on those things, because that's how we take care of our families. Everybody on here, I know, I may not know you personally, but I know one thing: you're looking forward to your pension. You're looking for to make sure that you can bargain a contract. But if we elect Donald Trump, look at Project 2025.
Hey, Rich,
Go
imagine
ahead,
all those
brother.
good things. Imagine all those good things you said about what the end of your contract's going to mean and the actions you all must take to get the next one.
Right.
Just imagine a bunch of clowns in your shop talking about we need to desert nationally.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's the
that'd be
thing,
like
that if
Donald
you
Trump.
read 2025, that's what they want. They want it to be easier to decertify from unions.
Well, that's what I'm
That's
saying.
in
So
there.
bunch of your members come to you and say, "No, man, we need to desert the Teamsters out of this whole situation." You know, it demeans all of us. It destroys everybody.
Everybody.
They don't get it. They just
And that's the conversations that I think we need to have. Because O'Brien is not going to be in that booth with you. He's not, right? Your spouse, your kids, your grandkids. I see we got Sister Yvette, her grandson is there. She has to vote on his behalf, right? I know Michelle, you have a family, you have to vote on their behalf, you and your husband, right? All of us have to take that person or those people that mean the most to us in that booth with us and vote accordingly. O'Brien ain't gonna be there. I'm telling you, he's not gonna be there. So as much as I know we dislike what he's done and what he's doing, we can't be so focused on him that we forget about what is the most important. Because I'm gonna tell you this: if you vote for Donald Trump, it ain't gonna matter who is in the Marble Palace. It ain't even gonna matter. So, Brother Chris, go ahead.
Let me just say this, because I have a video that's we had a problem getting into our YouTube account, so we're trying to fix that. But the video is ready. But I said this: whiteness have never been beneficial to white folks. It allows them to live as poor as black folks. And the only thing that they get is the high of believing that they're white. And so if you look at at white folks who believe that somebody from Mexico or Guatemala is taking their job from them, that's a made-up construct. You want to believe that, right? Because if you are intimidated, I'm not intimidated by anybody coming here from Guatemala or Honduras or Mexico, right? And so they tell you, and this is what Trump is doing, oh, you're white and you should have these things. You never had them. You never had that. There are more poor white people in America than poor black people, quietly told, right? So whiteness in and of itself has never been uplifting. We become uplifted when we join hands. In the 1800s, waiters in New York, and people need to do some reading. The black waiters in New York made more money than the white waiters. They were both unionized, black waiters, and this is in the 1800s, just so you know. And the white waiters did not want to join hands with the black waiters, but they went to them to find out, hey, how come you guys make more than we do? Right? So it is about the leadership, right? If you go into the South with the longshoremen and on the waterfront in Louisiana, it is only when they join hands did both of them be able to rise up, because the employer is always going to hire the cheaper help. Right. So there are two carpenters that showed up, and one is making $10 and one making $7. He hired the one making $7 because that's what you call profit, the ability to exploit. So we have to be very careful. And you're right. We have to go out when we leave this call and talk to our neighbors, talk to our cousins, talk to everybody we can talk to. And we have to break down so they understand why it's important to cast this ballot for Kamala. Listen, I have my problems with this Gaza thing beyond compare. I'm too beside myself around this Gaza issue. But I also realize that there's more to it. And if you listen to the rhetoric of the orange one says, annihilate them, just kill them all. So there's a choice that we have to make here, right? Between kill some of them and kill them all, right? It's a weird thing, but you're not going to get a good move under Trump. You're going to get a better move under Kamala. And all of our history tells us this, right? Because they're going to have we the people are going to have a greater impact on how the Democratic Party thinks than we are with the Confederates, because they're not Republicans. I'm very clear about this. They're Confederates. I don't call them no Republican. When you storm in the Capitol carrying Confederate flags and what have you like that, you're not a Republican. You're an insurrectionist. And we say, to hell with them, and we're going to stop them cold in their tracks. They're going to lose this election in places that's going to blow their mind. All we have to do is get out here and do a little bit.
Yep, that's it.
Right? If each of us do a little bit, don't have to do a whole lot. If each of us do a little bit, you take care of 10, I'm going to handle 10, you handle 10, we all handle 10. If we do that, we're going to blow them out of the pond, because we need a supermajority in the Senate.
Yeah.
Right? Because we need to corral, we need to impeach Clarence Thomas and the other one, the other upside down flag fella. We need to impeach the two of them, right? And kick them out. And you need 60 votes to do that. And we can replace them two and talk about adding 4 more, because there's now 13 circuits. Used to be 9, now there are 13 federal circuits in the federal judiciary, and each circuit should have its own judge on the Supreme Court. There's no reason why not. And we need to make these things happen, and we need to pass the John Lewis.
John Lewis Voting Act, the PRO Act.
We need the PRO Act. We need to replenish. We need to protect strikers. Yep. We need to end right to work. We got a lot of work to do, which requires us to have a supermajority in the Senate. So with that,
quick question before I go to Michelle. So we got a question from one of our brothers, Jose. He asked this question because Chris, you talk about it about the family plan. So he wants to know what the family plan is.
Brother, if you were in the family plan and did about 20 years in the IBT, you would never suffer again in life. And there's nothing wrong with it. I don't want to, it's a very wealthy pension plan that is open to officers and employees of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters on that level, above the local union level. It's not available to everyone, only available to if you're employed, if you're employed by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. It is a very rich one. I think the only one that used to be better than that was the Southern Conference pension plan. You were a millionaire when you walked out the door with that one right there.
Sister Michelle.
Okay, so I'm marching as hard as I can, doing what I need to do, doing what everybody says we need to do to get Kamala voted in. I need to know, because I'm a strategist and I always want to have a win. Will we be able to come back to brothers and sisters in our leadership, our locals, especially my TNBC? If the orange man wins, are we strategizing on what we need to do to survive another Trump term if he were to win?
So I'm part of a group of people, I can answer that from, I'm a part of a group of people who are strategizing. They're not TNBC. These are radicals from way back, left-leaning people. And we are having that discussion, and we actually put out a piece, because that is going to be something that Labor, and this is one of the reasons why we can't have a general president that is piddle-paddling around, because this is real. Because you're talking about if you go on strike, that they have the right to fire everybody and replace you, right? You're talking about if you're on a picket line in some states, it's legal for you to drive and run into that picket line and kill 5 people on the picket line, and it's not a crime, right? So we're confronted by some forces. If you're thinking about DeSantis, Greg Abbott in Florida, in Texas, in which we have some laws. Greg Abbott pardoned a murderer because he killed somebody that was in a Black Lives Matter demonstration, and he pardoned that individual. That's a message. That's why I don't call them Republicans, right? Because only the Klan lived like that. Only rabid, racist, white people did things like that back in the day, right? If you can think about when they killed my man in Mississippi, Emmett Till, the guy that was the head of the NAACP down there at the time,
Medgar Evers.
Edgar Evers, right? It took 20 and 30 years, 30 and 40 years to actually bring these people to a trial, right? And if you have that type of a governor, even if you find them guilty, that governor is going to go and pardon them. They're having a party for the January 6th insurrectionists. Trump is talking about pardoning the most rabid, violent people in the MAGA movement, right? So we can't afford for him to win. And if he wins, God ain't gonna make that happen. But if he wins, then we gotta stand up and say, God, we got this. We got this, right? And I'm calling right now that there should be a nationwide strike. Everything, lockdown, shutdown, nothing moves.
General strike.
General strike. Nothing. We don't make nothing. We don't move nothing. We don't build nothing. We don't start nothing. We don't stop nothing, because you're not going to be able to survive. I just watched the attitude of young. I mean, I'm not even talking about old white folks like myself. You know, I'm talking about young white folks. I'm looking at their attitudes and I'm saying, this man is giving them license to hate, right? License to hate. You know, when you see that amongst people that are 30 and, 30 and younger, they're getting this from someplace. I mean, if you're my age and white and you have certain attitudes, I have forgiveness for you, because, you grew up in that society, but not when you're that young. Not when you're that young. But we're in
Fontaine.
Yes, I just want to be the first to, say that a proud member of the TNBC, that we, took the stance to endorse what we did, and hopefully we set a thesis and set a precedent to create a mission statement for, all the Teamsters, all the locals across the world and everything to vote in your best interest for the labor movement. I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, and they're caught in the middle of their own, political, backgrounds, whether they're Democratic or Republican. But when it comes to the Teamsters, with this, man, it starts because once you take this away, the collective bargaining agreement that we worked so hard
Yeah.
years and years and years for to create to protect us as a whole, that's when it ain't no coming back. Like we say, we ain't going back. It didn't just start last election or that. It started with the movement. It started years and years ago. And I think, with different things, Project 25 and all that, that's been around. People hadn't been paying attention, but it's just becoming more relevant about it, of lately. And now people are starting to, hear more about it. But it's just certain things in place that, is trying to take certain laws away from, being able, to do certain things, within the union as well on different sectors of that. So at the end of the day, as a Teamster, I just want to say, man, we all got to vote in our best interest. And that's, these horses, thunder and lightning, everything, that's just what it's got to be at the end of the day. Come November, we got to do our job as Teamsters to enlighten, to educate, everything, to get everybody out there and vote. That's what we have to do. I just want to say, proud of being a TNBC member that we did that early endorsement, because I think we set the tone for what it is about, what this labor movement is about. And it was a great thing to experience. And even coming on to the Zoom call, everything is just being active and being a part of the movement. And that's what we got to do. From Chicago to Philly to Texas to California, I met people across the world, Hawaii, everybody. We got to do what we got to do to get this thing rolling.
Can I make a suggestion?
Go ahead, brother.
If all you guys go back to your barns and get people to sign a petition, right? It's not a petition, but a fundraiser. So you go back to the barn and say, yo, I need $20, $25 from all the people who are supporting Kamala, right? If you do that, one of the things that happen, because when people have money in something, they become invested. And we have the opportunity to go and says, all these are from the 30 members that work at the whatever your barn is, right? 3rd Street sorting center for UPS. This is the 3rd Street sorting center. And here's $500 from them. This is that small money thing, but everybody that signs that paper and puts that $25 are more likely to go to the polls and vote, right? Because my money is in it. It's like betting on a horse, right? If you bet on a horse, you're very interested in the outcome. If you bet on a football game, you're very interested in the outcome, right? You're going to watch it even if, So if we can do those small things, because my sadness, let me pass that. But I think that when you endorse, you back it up with money, right? And I'm going to say this for those of you who are offended by our general president. It is time in this union for Black leadership, okay? Not simply because they're Black, but because we have a perspective on what's happening in this country. So we're not going to make that same mistake flirting with a Donald Trump. We're not going to make that mistake because we are very clear about the historical relationship in America between Blacks and the labor union and a dictatorial fascist government. We know what Jim Crow is. Jim Crow was fascism, right? Sheriff Clark down in Selma was a fascist. George Wallace, the governor, was a fascist, right? We already have seen what a fascist America looks like, women know what it's like, some of you are not alive anymore, to be in America where women couldn't vote, where women could not have a credit card on their own until 1974. That's not a long time ago.
No, it's not.
We need to be very clear about this, right? So when we're doing these things, we need a new direction. We need a very revolutionary direction in this country, in the labor movement. We need to have changes. And if we can put, we're on the verge of putting the second African-American and woman into the White House. It is time for us to make some radical changes in the labor movement. And when that time comes, you as rank and filers, you got to throw up your $5, $10, and $20 if you're gonna have this, because those candidates are gonna need money to travel, to run around, collect signatures, and to do all the work that has to be done. No different than Kamala needs millions and millions of dollars. So I just say that we have to get into not just talk, but the action business. And the action business requires money, and it requires time, the investment of time. So, just thought I'd throw that in the wind while I was here.
Brother Palmer, did you want to say something? I know you had your hand up earlier.
I was clapping
Oh,
about
okay.
the TNBC and just the wonderful. I think it was so critical that you guys did it. Just having an outlier that went ahead and did it wasn't enough. It was the move that you made. You've made national news. I think I shared this with many of you. I feel like this organization has become, from what I can tell, a very educational organization. I joined. I believe in you guys, and I believe that we're pushing something here that needs to be pushed, that hasn't been moved before. And I'm just proud to support you and be with you.
And it was good to see you out there too, John. It was good to see you in the audience, receiving the love, the appreciation that I saw our members, the TNBC, give to you, man. It did my heart well to see, because I know over the last couple of years, man, you have been getting just disrespected, and that takes a different level of commitment to go into a place knowing that these folks got it out for you. They're gonna be disrespectful, and you go and you take it, and then to have the person at the highest level to try to undercut, other things that you got going on. I'm not gonna talk about it on here. It's just terrible, man. Because I'll say it again, because I don't think I can say it any other way without getting too political. If you are afraid of your leader, you got the wrong leader. And that's just the bottom line. That's what it is. You should not be afraid of the leader. You can't be. And the leader has to understand that they're not always right. They make mistakes. You gotta have thick skin, and you gotta be a visionary, and you gotta care about people more than you care about yourself. And that's not what we're seeing right now. You know what I mean? And so we got to be mindful of that, because this is going to be a long road ahead. And I hope people on this call have a plan to get people registered to vote, get people out to the polls, because that's the other piece that, we're behind in, because the Teamsters, like you said, Chris, they're doing this pity pat. We don't know what side of the fence we're on, right? And so that time that we're wasting could be going into, hey, we're going to meet at local 623 on this date. We're going to bring out about 200 people. We're going to register them to vote. We're going to let them know their polling places. If they need vans, we're going to get that together. We're going to go to local 808. We're going to do this. We're going to do that at local 767, 1932, 710. We're not doing that. What we're talking about is, hey, man, it's the minimum that the Biden administration could have done to give them that pension money. No, man, we need to be talking about getting our folks to the polls to vote.
Yeah. But that's ignorance to say something like that. Like I said.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I mean, I mean, when you talk about somebody just handed you 80, the banks, when they bailed the banks out, they had to pay it back, right? I mean, true, they had to pay the money back, right? They bailed out our pension funds. Somebody said that your work had value and was to
Right.
be respected, right? And they said, if for this, we're going to bail out these pension funds. Because when you retire, you do your math, right? Oh, well, 2,000 from my pension and 2,000 from Social Security, I got $4,000, I could make it. When somebody comes and says, hey, you're about to lose $1,000 a month, that ain't the answer.
No, that ain't the answer. It's
You know what
not.
I'm saying? Not at this point, right? And so for her to have said something like that really says how disrespectful. And I'm going to tell you something else. It is even harder for him now to support Kamala, because I will guarantee you he's a misogynist. I will guarantee you that he's going to have a hard time saying that we are going to endorse someone who is of African descent and a female. So this GEB got to stand up. This GEB has got to say, the hell with the family plan, the hell with everything. America, tomorrow morning is more important. Tomorrow morning is more important. Let me tell you, I saw the movie Hidden Figures. I cried for however long that movie was. I just cried. My wife was like, why are you crying? And I said, to think of all the women, young girls, that did not know that they could be scientists, that they could be mathematicians, that they could be engineers, that lived their entire life. You know what I'm saying? What if this information had been front page in grade school, in high school? Would I have chosen to do this over that? You understand the point I'm saying? And so that we have to continue to uplift women, because women birth everything.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the man done up and gone, women
Mama's still there.
hold it down.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? All you got to do is send some child support money, but mama got to change diapers. Mama got to take you to the doctor. Mama got to make sure you in school. Mama got to make sure everything, right? So when Kamala breaks this glass, shatters this glass ceiling, it is going to change the trajectory for all the women in the future, right? They will see America the same way a young person who grew up seeing Barack Obama in the White House. It changes your entire mindset.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? When you were growing up and your dad told you could be president, you're like, yeah, get right. But when you were born in a time when your dad said it and you could see it and it was real, it changes your mindset. And we're at that inflection point again, and we have to make it work.
Sis Yvette.
And I just want to encourage everybody, because a part-time on the twilight shift at my building, one of the clerks came to me because she wants to do a voter registration. So on my vacation coming up, we're getting together so we can set up a table to sign up people at the building to make sure that they are registered to vote. So you don't have to wait on anybody. You don't have to get permission from
That's
nobody.
right.
As long as you got a table, you can get some, put up something that send
That's it.
people the link. You don't have the forms, whatever, have them scan it, go online, get themselves together so you can do it yourself. Utilize whatever you can to get it done. So we don't have to wait on anything big. You can always do it on your own if you have to.
That's right.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, some of the resources you can go out and do that too, man. Go out to your churches, go out to your barbershops, go to your community. There's a lot of different things we can do. To get out there and reach everybody out there. Advocate and give tools to help with the voting process.
Yeah, that's what Ted Mullins did, man. Ted Mullins plastered the West Side, because Ted Mullins was a West Side guy. I don't know if they lived there anymore, but he had long roots in the West Side of Chicago, and he plastered the West Side with Obama signs when he was running for United States Senate. You know, I met the student Ted Mullins, and I met Barack Obama at Quinn Chapel in Chicago, right, which is the oldest AME church in the city of Chicago. You know, and I knew then. I told Barack, I said, "You're gonna be the first black man to become president of the United States." I didn't know it was gonna happen that fast, but
Right.
but it was clear that he was special. It
Yeah,
was just so obvious. He was different.
you're right. So we got about 14 minutes, and I know we got some people who haven't spoke at all. I want to give you guys an opportunity before we leave.
I call on Teresa Smith from
Yeah, the Central Region president.
show your pretty first face, girl. Teresa.
She might not. Oh, there you go.
There we go. What's up, sis?
I'm walking into work. I've been kind of listening. I got to get on this clock, but I was just thinking and listening. And one of the things that I wanted to say, of course, I'm proud of the TNBC and what we've done. I can't wait to get to work. But here's what I was just thinking. When we're talking about the GEB, you know how we tell people to get in touch with the Congress
Yeah.
and all that. What should we, I mean, what can we tell the people? Well, who should we email, call, or whatever to get the GEB to get more involved and to stand up like you guys are talking about?
They should.
Hold on, y'all can't see me. I'm trying to clock in. Hold on.
I think
I'm listening.
I think that what every member should do, it's not hard to find. Look for whoever is the vice presidents on the general executive board, the trustees, and shoot them an email, call them, say, hey, talk to their secretaries, whatever. Say, hey, man, we need you to stand up and say, hey, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz for president. And that's a good point. I think that should light a fire under them, because the more they hear from the members, hopefully they'll do the right thing. Hopefully if they keep getting these calls, hey, they call John Palmer, they call Juan Campos, they'll call James Wright, they'll call other folks on the GEB, say, hey, man, we need y'all to stand up, make a stand. Listen, we elected you to make a stand.
That's right.
Right.
So
they all
I like
so
that.
that's-
I like that idea. That's a good idea, man. So
they all come from someplace.
right.
So they have a local union or something, or a joint council, and so that you can find them. And if you just organized in your location, right, get your chapter together, get your people together, and say, hey, listen, we need 10, 20 people to send an email in, 10, 20 people to make a phone call to the joint council that says, hey, my name is Jones, and we want you to stand up in the GEB and support the Harris
Walz
ticket.
Yep.
right. And we all have our different VPs, for the Central region, the Western region, all that. So maybe, I know you said that everybody knows, but I don't want to assume that everybody knows. So maybe we need to put something out so people know who they are supposed to contact and get that going, because it's kind of like social media. Hey, Roger. It's kind of like social media. When things get out there, you try to get ahead of it.
Somewhere between our chairman, vice chairman, and executive director, they should be able to get that out real quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, sis.
Hey,
you're welcome.
quick,
Thank you.
And congratulations on being honored. That was very nice.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Quick on that.
It's an honor to be honored, and it's been a great journey.
No doubt.
That email address for anybody that works at the IBT is their first initial, last name at teamster.org. So mine is jpalmer@teamster.org.
Okay.
Teamster, no S. Teamster.
Got you.
So if anybody wants to do that, look them up. Send them. I'm sure they'll appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sometimes you need help rebuilding your backbone.
Ah, there you go. Sissy Yvette.
I had somebody wanted me to ask a question to the group. Does anybody know the percentage of retirees who actually have an active pension in America? They think it's about 4%. Does anybody have any idea?
I couldn't tell you that one.
Okay, me neither. We're gonna have to look it up, sister.
But
That
you gotta remember that there's central states, there's Western Conference, there are all these local unions that have
Yeah.
their own pension plans. It's a difficult number to put together. Very difficult.
I'm not sure if she was just talking about hours or just in
Yeah.
general. So it may be I don't know.
Is it,
Sure.
the important thing is to me is that it valued the worker, right? That people who were about to find themselves eating rice and beans with no meat now find themselves being able to maintain in retirement. And it says something very sad about living in a society where you're that close to the edge, even in retirement, right? So if I was in not Yosemite, I was out in Joshua Tree years ago, hiking around and fooling around when I was younger. And I saw all these RVs and whatnot. And I was surprised at the amount of Germans that I had run into who had retired and were able to come. I mean, just renting an RV for a week is a very expensive proposition. And they were able to rent the RV for 2-3 weeks and travel all over the place. So we need to do a lot to improve Social Security, right? Because the top Social Security, if you retire, I'm making over $100,000 a year is like $3,000, $4,000. So think of dropping from $100,000 a year to $36,000 a year in income, right? So we need to improve Social Security. We need to get those numbers up, so when you retire with Social Security should really reflect as closely as possible. So if you retire, you should be 75% of what you are making, right? And then if you have a pension to go along, but if you don't have a pension,
Yeah.
and you're just depending on Social Security, you better have some serious savings. And a lot of people don't have those serious savings. And it's sad that we live in supposedly the richest country in the world, and we can't hijack more money out of Bezos and all these millionaires, and people who make money juggling stocks and bonds. We spend too much money on our military. It is sick. So that's what I'm saying, that we really have to reimagine what our society looks like if we're going to have it be a worker-focused society.
Anybody else before we close out? Before we close up shop? Mama Jackie, where you at?
What's Danny Hebert saying? Herbert. Hey, Danny, you can't come and be the best dressed guy at
Hey, I had to cut you off before you got on me, brother. Hey, look, man, y'all haven't said nothing but excellent talking points today, man. I actually appreciate the Southern California chapter for reaching out to us and making sure we was all logged on today. I don't really want to put out no mysterious assumptions or nothing, man, but it seems like a few of our 952 members who participated in the conference could be potentially getting a little bit of backlash for participating. Look like we've been having to jump through a few extra hurdles, compensating our members for participating. But I'm staying on top of it over there, and we anticipated some type of backlash. A couple of people that work at our local actually work at the IBT, so it is what it is. But all in all, this was a great call. I definitely won't be missing any of them going forward, and Thank you, Richard, for the opportunity.
No problem, brother. Hey, man, it's good to see you, man. I gotta get smooth like you when I grow up, man.
Hey, man.
You ain't lying. I need to find that Taylor, man. I
I'm
think
telling you, tell me about it.
he found Robert Turner's Taylor. That's what it is.
All right, brother, man. It was good to hear from you, man. It was good to see you at the conference too, man.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
All right,
Hey,
brother.
Dave Luby.
I know they may be at Hershey Park because I don't know if he's there because it's local. They sponsored a trip, so he might be out there with them out there.
Hey, Luby.
I'm actually not. I'm actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of the laundromat. Actually, I mean, I agree with everything was said. But more for me, more importantly, this vote is not about my pension. It's not about my future. This is about my daughter's future.
Yeah.
And that's my responsibility. With this election, it's all about my daughter. Making sure that she has better opportunity than I had. So I think it is critical that we all understand that we can be setting our kids and our grandkids back 1,000 years if we don't take action now.
You're right.
And that's pretty much all I have to say on it.
You're right, brother. You're right.
Great input, man. I appreciate that. That's so true.
What's that? Lavelle up? I know you've been chatting in the chat, man. We want to hear your voice.
Sorry, brothers. Yeah, I'm actually away at lunch with the family, so I didn't want to be extremely loud with you guys. But yeah, just as far as the meeting goes, man, I'm really appreciative, and there's a lot of information that's been bestowed by the those that come before me. And as far as this election goes, like I said in the comments there, this is for the soul of our country. What kind of legacy are we leaving behind? What are the deep-rooted morals that we are actually, following here? And I think that if we go in a direction that's unfavorable to our youth, I mean, who knows what it becomes in the future?
You're right.
And there's no going back.
That's right. We're not going back, brother.
No going back. D. Davis. Or Day Davis. Day Davis. David Tinley. What you got to say?
Hey. What you got to say?
Akia Malachi Whaley. What you got to say?
Well,
who is Kim? Kim, what you got to say? I know Spencer got something to. Oh, there you go, Kim. How you doing?
Hi, everybody. I got on kind of late. I wasn't aware of the meeting.
What's up, Kim? What's happening? I didn't know that was you. There's a whole bunch of Kims.
Oh, okay. I didn't put my last name in there since I was joining late, so I just figured I'd just jump on and get whatever I can get towards the end. So I'm going to get something started with my women caucus so we can try to see about how we can reach out to the people and get them registered to vote.
Fantastic. Actions make you a Teamster. Dues make you a member.
That's it.
Yeah,
but that's why she was able to do that, because she come from that local. I just want to throw it out there for free.
Yes, indeed.
I appreciate that.
Is that Miss Kim that was in
Yep.
Yes, Mama Jackie.
Get down. Okay, what's going on?
Not much.
Okay, Kim, I got your phone number. You still got my number, right?
Yes, ma'am. I got to get back to work tomorrow.
Okay,
they missed me for 2 weeks, so I'm sure they're not going to be happy to see me when I walk in there tomorrow.
All right. Charged up. So who is Kia Whaley?
Miss
Yeah,
Kia.
Whaley. Malachi Whaley. Huh? Looks like 5 o'clock, brother.
Yep. So we gonna get out of here, and I thank you guys and gals. Go ahead, sis.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm out with my family.
Oh, she hit it again.
All right, she's out with her family.
All right. We appreciate you coming in. Thank everybody. We're gonna do this again next month. But if anything pop off that we need to talk about, we'll do it earlier.
That's it.
Let me see. Let's get the date before we log off so everybody would know.
Yeah, Kia Malachi is one of my top stewards over at Local 952.
Okay,
She's
okay.
probably having issues with her phone over there with her family, but
Got you.
all
I'm
right.
glad she was able to get on, man. That's good stuff, man.
Yes.
Let me see this here. So how about September the 15th? I know football. When is football? It start the 8th. So
September the 15th is I don't think good. I think that's when the 13th and 14th.
oh, right. That's
Okay,
you're right. Yeah, we can't do the 15th.
that is
I forgot
correct.
about that. Well, we could do the 22nd, around about 4 o'clock.
22nd is good with me.
All right. So September
Mr. Lavelle
22nd.
put his email in the chat, so look at it.
Yeah, I gotta make sure I get that. And make sure I write that down. All right, got it. All right, so we're gonna get out of here. Please, everybody, make sure you have a plan to get folks registered to vote. Get with your local union. If your local union don't want to help you, Sister Yvette got a good idea there. You don't need, nobody to help you. All you need is a table. Get the resources that you need as far as making sure you get people registered the right way. Find out from your state when the last day to be registered. Here in Pennsylvania, it's October the 21st. October the 21st here in Pennsylvania is the last day you can get registered to vote. So please find out your state when that date is and make sure you grind and get as many people registered to vote, come up with a plan. And again, I know there's a lot of people who are upset with our general president, and very rightfully so. But the flip side of that is he is not going to be in that booth with you, right? And you need to make sure that you vote in a way that regardless of what I say, he says, anybody says, that we support and we endorse and we vote for Kamala Harris, pensions, like Dave Luby said, for your daughters and sons,
That's exactly right.
granddaughters.
Luby said it the best.
Right.
This is about our children and our
That's it.
grandchildren.
That's it.
Luby is, you hit the nail on the head there,
That's
brother.
it. And so, we got to make sure that we do that, because we don't want to go into this situation. And I said this at the TNBC, and I know this may rub some folks who don't look like us the wrong way, but I'm going to say it again. So whenever you hear a radical person say they want to be a dictator for a day, that should really make us, a cause for pause. But whenever it's a white radical person, as Black folks, we really need to pay attention to that. Because I remember back when white folks were dictators, right? We could go in the front line of the war, but we had to go in the back of the restaurant, right? And
That's
so
right.
we got to be mindful of those things, because these things are on the ballot. Donald Trump is not shy about what he wants to do to labor, women, right? And so we got to be careful and mindful of that, because like Brother Fontaine just put in the chat, what we talked about earlier, Your collective bargain agreement is on that ballot when you walk in that booth.
Mhm.
If you got a contract that's getting ready to expire in the next 4 years, be mindful of what Donald Trump says about striking workers. He think y'all should be fired, and it's a big joke.
The joke. That's right.
We didn't make that up. He said it. We all heard it.
That's it.
It was a couple weeks ago.
That wasn't AI.
No, it wasn't AI. It was him and Elon Musk. Yeah, man, you fired the people. Ha 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 ha. They going on strike.
Yeah.
People don't realize what going on strike means, man. That is the ultimate sacrifice in the labor union. You have told the company, I'm willing to sacrifice all I got to be on this street because I need you to know that my labor means more to me than what you're trying to give me for it.
Mhm.
And that's what we got to do.
That's
When you in that box, that ballot, that's what you're fighting for.
Yeah, that's what you're fighting for.
So again, we're gonna get out of here. Looking forward to seeing you guys on September the 22nd. Please have a plan. Talk to your co-workers, talk to your local union, because we got to make sure that we get Kamala Harris and Tim Walz elected, regardless of what our general president does. He will not be in that booth with you. He's not going to be there. I'm not going to be there. Chris not going to be there, right? But you have to vote for your kids, your grandkids,
That's right.
legacy, lineage, all that stuff. All right. So again, God bless you guys. I'm glad you guys came and spent a couple hours with us. Brother Fontaine, man, 2 days, man. It's gonna be our birthday, man.
Happy
Yes,
birthday,
sir. Yes,
Brother
sir.
Fontaine.
Yeah.
Virgos in the house, Virgos.
That's
Yeah,
it.
something.
That's it. That's
Happy
it.
birthday, Brother Fontaine.
Yeah.
And go find
Appreciate the
out about,
love. Yes.
go find out about Ted Mullins and Frank Soule.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you,
All right.
everybody. Yes.
All right. Y'all be good, man. I'll talk to y'all soon.
Okay, now. Bye-bye.
All right.
All right, Yvette. Bye-bye.
See y'all later.